Hi there, Titans. My name is Paige, and today I will be showing you how to enable a page modal to accommodate a mobile version of your web project. So here I have a web project that I have created, and it's currently in the desktop version, but I wanted to adapt it for my mobile users. And because I have a modal on this project, I had to implement a page modal and take some very intricate steps to make sure that my pushes go through and everything lines up correctly. So I wanted to document this and show it to you so that it can help you with your implementation of different devices for your users. So in this example, my users will be creating an account, and then they'll be creating several contacts. The first will be the primary contact on the account, and then they have the option to add other family members to the account as contacts. Then they'll submit their credit card details and sign the terms and conditions. So I'm going to start by just showing you the preview of both the desktop version and then the mobile version of this site from a user's perspective, so you can see the flow and see all the ways that I have built this out. And then I'm going to show you the steps that I took to make sure that everything triggered correctly and worked correctly for my users. So let's get started by just seeing the desktop version. So there we created the account, and we're creating the primary contact on this account. I'm not going to waste our time with filling out all this information just because it's not needed. When we go next, it goes to the top of the page and it loads this power table for the first time. So this is a button that's going to open up our modal where we can create a new contact for this account. And then on the click of this button, we are creating a contact, we are clearing the modal values, we are closing the modal, and we are refreshing the power table. So 4 different things going on at that click of the button. And then we are able to do this over and over and over again for as many contacts as we would like to create. Once we have created all the contacts for this account, we can click next. We can enter our credit card information, then sign the terms and conditions. Very, very clean and useful interface. Let's see what it would look like from the mobile perspective. So I'm going to switch to mobile by going to this little icon here, then clicking on my large mobile device. And then let's preview this. It has the same exact fields and functionality, but it's just smaller for that mobile device. And you can see all of the fields are now layered on top of each other in this small screen. And this was done via the auto fit container when I clicked on auto layout. And I can show you that button too. So there we go. We can click next. And again, it's going to take us to the top of the next tab, refresh the power table, and give us, and actually this is a new button, and I'll show you this in the editor. This is a different button that instead of launching the modal, it's actually launching a page within a modal. So let's watch that happen. So this modal is smaller, but it still has all of the same fields. Makes it a lot more user-friendly for the phone. Still can sign it. And then when we click this button, it is actually only closing the modal and creating the contact. And it's passing the contact through a parameter, the contact ID through a parameter, and there's a condition on that parameter that says that whenever the contact ID is not empty, then refresh the power table. So let's watch that happen. There we see it. We see Michelle and Gary. We can add on a new family member, and it is refreshed. There we go. I love this little signer. It is just so pretty to me. And then we can click next, fill in our credit card information, and see the terms and conditions the same as we would on the large desktop device. So very, very clean options for both our mobile and desktop users. And let me show you the intricacies of what I did to make sure that this works correctly. So one of the first things I want to show you is that we had two different buttons. We can see our two buttons here. These are for both of the devices. The one that is not grayed out, this is the desktop button, and the action that lives on it is to open up that modal. So you can see the drawer modal action is enabled, and then we are showing the family member modal right there. And then the other modal, or the other button, is for the mobile device, and this action is not to open up the modal, but to open up a page within a modal. See, you can select which way you want to open up a page, and one of the options is to open it up in a modal where you're able to define your own width and height and open it up, open up an entire page within a modal. So that's what we're doing for the mobile version only. So I'm going to, let me show you how we actually hide per device. So if you are in your layer list, you can find the button. So this add family member button is disabled for the device, and you can disable all of these buttons per device. Oh, I just disabled the wrong one. It's supposed to be for this one. Okay, cool. Let me just make sure that was the right one. Yes, okay, so that's the right one to be enabled. And whenever that is clicked, it opens up our modal. Let me go to that. And here is the modal for the desktop users. They can fill in all their information, sign, and then when they click on this button here, there are several actions that take place. The first action is that we are creating the contact. And when it is created, it passes the contact ID in this parameter. Going to look, we actually have two different actions. So this action that is living on the desktop is this create contact desktop modal only. And I labeled both of these per their device so that I'm able to cleanly see which one is the correct action that I want. So here are our mappings, and you can see the same with the tags for each field. I labeled them for the device. So on the modal that is for the desktop, I labeled all the fields desktop, field name, desktop first name, desktop last name, and the account ID is always going to be the account ID parameter that was created when they created the account on the first tab. All right, so that is the first action. The other thing that's happening on the first action is that it is closing the modal. And when it is a standard modal, you close it by enabling drawer modal actions and then hiding the modal. The second rule, second action that's happening at the click of this button is that we are getting the power table. And then the third action is that we are resetting the modal. So with this modal, if we did not put all of our fields in a carousel container, then we would not be able to reset it. And every time you opened up that modal, it would still have the same field values that you put in that previous time. So because our users would be creating multiple contacts using the same modal, we want them to come into a fresh, clean modal every time and not see those previous values. So I reset the values by going to carousel, reset, and that will make the modal, the carousel container within the modal, refresh the values every time it's opened. And actually, we do not need this rule here. So you don't need to have it get the power table contacts because, and I'm going to show you why, because we have a condition on the parameter themselves. So if you go to settings over here, go to site elements, tools, custom variables, you can see the two variables that we have in this project. One is the account ID that is passed when that account is created on the first tab. The second parameter that is passed is the contact ID, and it's passed in a few different places. It's passed whenever the primary account is created, and it's passed whenever the family member accounts are created or contacts are created, either in the desktop modal or in the mobile modal. So whenever that is passed, there is a condition that when the contact ID is not empty, then we will run the get power table. And so that is why we don't need it to be, the action to be on the buttons of the modals themselves. So in review of the desktop modal, the actions that are taking place on the button on the desktop modal is 1, create the contact and close the modal, and 2, clear the modal because so that it is not, the values are not still there when they open the modal again. And then in the background, when that contact ID is not empty, then the table is refreshed and it shows the new contact that was submitted. The other, let me show you the other modal, and this is used for the mobile version only. And so the other modal is actually an entire page, and that's why I navigated to it via the pages. But this is only ever going to be opened, this page will only ever be opened when you click on the button in the mobile version. So let me go to the mobile version. And this button will open up the page modal. Here you can see that it opens up the page modal and a modal, and the height and width is set, and it opens up that page. All right, so I will show you the button via the mobile version, but also I want to make sure that in case you have not I guess expanded your website to be usable through other devices, whenever you are first creating a new like your site to be used through another device, you'll click on that option and it's going to ask you if you want an auto layout or a manual layout, and I chose auto layout because it puts all of your fields into an auto fit container and then decides what order they're going to lay in based on that device's size, and then you're able to easily move them around to fit the order that you would like. You can also use the manual layout if you'd like, and that will give you full control of where your fields would be, but it might take a little bit more work. So I would just play with both options depending on which projects you're working on and decide which version is right for you. So let's go to the mobile site that I've been working on. And here we can see the page that will be opened up in the modal. And then at the click of this button, the actions that are taking place are that we are creating the contact and then passing the contact through the contact ID. And then on this mobile modal only contact creation, there is an after finish action that if the contact ID parameter is not empty, then we will close the page. And before we close the modal using this, but when the modal is actually a page opened up in a modal, then you will close it using the redirect go to page button, and then you can close the modal. So if it's a page, then close it through the page. If it's not a page, then close it through the modal. And the reason why we have this rule here is because whenever the contact is created, that's when the contact ID is passed, and then it's not empty, and that triggers the modal to close. So those are the ways that we use different rules depending on the different modal types to accommodate our mobile and desktop versions. I hope that this tutorial was helpful and that you can implement all of the devices for your users. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this helped.